Why is there this continual obsession with Saliba leaving Arsenal?
I don't know. It's just been a really messy situation from minute one. And it's like a saga that people get high off of, like it's like a drug or something. And I don't know. Like I just think there's an idea that William Saliba has been treated poorly and Arsenal don't deserve him because he's the best and brightest thing coming out of, France in terms of defense, and so, it's one of those, and it's been a saga for like 3 years. So we're tired. Um, but yeah, I think there's also like the elephant in the room of his contract. Traditionally, when a player gets down to the last 2 years of their contract, you have to make a decision. And so, William Saliba said he's going to come back. Arteta says he needs to come back, and we have plans for him. But I think a lot of this will be also dependent on his contract. I think that if you offer him, because here's the thing: is Saliba is younger than Konate, and Konate is excellent, but he's getting in the French squad over Konate. That's how much they rate him. And so there's a World Cup around the corner. You never know what's going to happen. And so he might have a really good opportunity to go to the World Cup as a 20-year-old with France. So he's going to want guaranteed playing time. He's probably going to want a pay bump. And you're not going to be able to convince William Saliba that this is the place where you should be if you're going to say, okay, well, we'll give you the Europa League. I don't think that'll be enough. It needs to be a pay bump. It needs to be, you're going to be, fighting for Premier League minutes. Konate is not getting in this team. You see what I'm saying? Like he needs playing time. So it's going to be a difficult one. Like I think it's a good sign and a good first step for everybody to say that he's going to come back for preseason, but it's really dependent on this contract. And he can also, decide not to take it and leave for free or leave in a year, so you never know. But, I think in terms of the media wanting to talk about it a lot, I think some of it is his agent trying to make sure that we give him the deal that he deserves. Because that's important for them to get him secured on more money and stuff like that. I think he deserves it based on what he's done. But also it's just people like to talk about Arsenal as well in the media. Like it's a really good way to get clicks too. Like,
Well, it is. And look, I saw Arsenal fans. I thought you tweet this, I think. It was Saliba Sunday or something. Like, you lot were going...
I love Saliba. Like, I'm not gonna lie. Like,
you've seen him play.
You've
never seen him play.
I do actually watch him play.
Not for Arsenal.
I do actually, but see, that's the thing. It's like,
not for Arsenal because he ain't keeping the ball.
No, he hasn't. He played a preseason game against Milwaukee.
Go on, son.
So he did pull on the kid one time. But I do watch him play in France, and that's how I know that. Like, I do think there's some validity to what Arteta said about him not being ready. There is some of that, So there's a lot of Arsenal fans that feel like he just hates him. You only arrive in the Premier League one time. He makes a big mistake, against somebody in the Premier League, and he's finished. So, I think there's some of that. But Saliba, I really think he's a very good player. We've had these conversations before. You said if he's been loaned out 3 times, he must not be that good. He is actually a very, very good player, and he knows that. So whether or not Arsenal can convince him that this is the place to be, very close to a World Cup where he's getting in the team above really, really good center backs, that's yet to be seen.
Yeah, let me clarify what you just said there about if he's been loaned out 2 or 3 times, he isn't that good.
You did say that.
What I say in those cases is I don't know if the player's going to make it at the club loaning him out, because there are not very many examples of players being loaned out twice or more where they end up making it back at that club. Harry Kane's like a standout example, and people will be able to name me a number of people that have done it. And I'm talking about reach their full potential. So I've had that skeptical mark. But William Saliba agrees with me. William Saliba agrees with Terry Flewers on this. 110%, and he said it in his statement. And what I loved about this, I mean, I legitimately enjoyed how Gooners went at Get French Football Now. The way they went at that account, like, screw you, you're in the mud. I'm like, it's literally a bloke tweeting news, like, leave him alone, right? But it's like they ignored the final line they ignored the final line of the statement from William Saliba, which I still think is where all of this obsession from all parties comes from. And I want to read the line out again. I've done it on a few shows this week, but I want to make sure that this doesn't get forgotten about. Where's it at? I'm trying to find it now because it was so central. Here we go. So the final line, I think, stands out more than any other. He did the whole "I belong here, I belong to them, I want a chance, play for their fans, big club." But then he says, "But it doesn't just depend on me. In any case, to leave like this would be a shame." I still think there's an element of William Saliba that doesn't 100% trust whether Mikel Arteta wants him or not. But this is why this becomes such a massive point with Gooners, because you've got the Gooner ins versus, the Arteta ins versus the Arteta outs. And the Arteta inners, they always do their best. And you know this. They always do everything in their power to make Arteta's decision-making look brilliant. But if William Saliba is as good as everybody says he is, and Arteta's not giving him a chance, Arteta inners, remember, they're all polarized. You've said this. I'll use your phrase. Football fans think too binary. What an Arteta inner doesn't want to turn around and do is go, I love Arteta, but he's so wrong on this occasion. They never like to admit he does anything wrong. The same as the Arteta out guys, no matter what he does, he's wrong in everything. And that's where this war stems around. It's all to do with Arteta. I think Saliba's like a byproduct of this situation. It's almost, we have to protect Arteta at all costs. So whatever happens, the people, he's loaning him for these reasons and that reasons. He's going to come back into the team and be a star. Saliba doesn't know if he's going to play yet or not. If he did, if Arteta had phoned him and said, you are 100% in the team next year, he'd have said that in the interview, wouldn't he? But he said, it isn't just up to me. He isn't digging Arteta out. So I'm just intrigued to see how this one goes. Brandon here says they're obsessed with Saliba leaving. It is because they can't grasp that a player who has been let down by the club wants to come back and prove his worth. That's also a great point. If you believe he's been let down by the club.
I feel like that also has to do with whether or not you think Arteta made a mistake by loaning him out. Again, things are just so binary. Loaning him out wasn't a big deal. And this is how I know a lot of Arsenal fans don't actually watch Saliba. They just look at the compilations and, Saliba is basically a stick to beat Arteta with. If you watch him, you would realize, like, the guy, he's like 18 when we bought him. Like, he's very, very raw. And so, and he was, the first time he was loaned out, it wasn't by Arteta. It was by Raul, so I don't think it was anything wrong with loaning him out. I think the thing that Saliba always pulls on is putting him in the under 23s. That's actually where I thought Arteta lost the trust from Saliba, is he's too good to be playing under 23s. And I get that you didn't put him in the squad, so you had to figure out something to do with him. But throwing him in the under 23s was not, it felt counterproductive and pointed to do that. So again, loaning him out was not the issue. Throwing him into under 23s may have been. But equally, he doesn't know, and he needs to be convinced that he'll play and stuff like that. Arteta says one thing, he says something else. So we just have to see. I think this is a wait and see kind of thing, but he'll be there for preseason. And it's in Arteta's and Arsenal's best interest to make sure that they keep him, because you're going to be playing in 4 competitions and there's no reason to go out into the market and spend 20-something million on another center back when you have one of the best ones coming out of France in your squad.
No doubt about it. And as I said before, like, if he comes back and he kills it, then he becomes one of those rocking horse shit type players. Rarities to be loaned out 2-3 times and then comes back to make it. And listen, I'm gonna remain skeptical, because generally speaking, it doesn't go that way very often. And I don't know if we could find more than 5 Premier League players who have become who have fulfilled their potential at their sort of origination club in the Premier League, who have been loaned out more than 2 times. Harry Kane's the only one I can really think of. Viewers, I'd love to know who else has done that. So they've either been bought by a big club or come through the academy of a big club, been loaned out twice or more, and still achieve their full potential at that club. I'd love to know.
Also, just
I'd like to know. I'd like to know.
Also, like, on both sides, we don't actually know what's happened. We're going a lot into a lot of projection and based on our own narratives, and we're just making things up. We actually don't know very much about the situation or the relationship between Arteta and Saliba. So we do this a lot in our fan base. I don't know if other fan bases do that, but there's a lot of I'm assuming that this is happening. I'm assuming this is the relationship, and then you end up with egg on your face later when that's not actually the truth. So this is a wait to be seen. There's a lot of Arteta hates Saliba, and Saliba hates Arteta, and he doesn't ever want to come back. And I would just say, like, just put a question mark by it and just let it go, because, like, we don't know. He could leave on a free in 2 years. He can leave next season, you know, after he's played some in the Premier League. He can leave this summer, or he can stay. All of those things could happen. You know, we do a lot of, like, absoluting and assuming, and sometimes it's just like we have no idea what their relationship is like. You know, it's the media's job to sensationalize every single thing that happens, and they don't really know anything either. They didn't even, like, the funny thing about Get French Football now is that they did, like, an interview talking to, I think it was Robbie, about Gabriel, and that guy knew absolutely nothing about Gabriel. He didn't know anything about him, how long he had been in the French league, and what foot he used or anything. So I would take everything with a grain of salt, really.
Yeah, I didn't know that. I didn't know that indeed. So
he was up there just saying whatever, and they were like, well, somebody asked, what is he, right-footed or left-footed? And the guy was like, he's right-footed. And if you know, like, come on, everybody knows Gabriel's left-footed. It's weird, you know, but yeah.
Yeah, it's a strange one to me. But there we go. I mean, it's, well, I didn't. I don't. Do you know what it is for me? It's that's not really what I focus on in the game. But it depends what you're trying to be. Does that make sense?
Well, like, if you're known for knowing everything about French football, and you're talking about Arsenal and players that are coming from your league to Arsenal, you think that the bare minimum you would know Gabriel. you know?
I mean, I think for me, yeah. I mean, when I say I don't know, it's like I don't ever think about what foot. I don't ever really think about what foot people use. But if it's someone that claims to be an expert, the one thing you'll never see from me is I'm claiming to be a football expert. I am a football fan. That's what I say.
Didn't
so
you say you're like a football finance expert, though? Isn't that like your little tag?
But that was my job. I wasn't. That was my job.
Are you actually an expert?
15 years experience. Youngest person in the previous bank history to hold the role that I had ever in a 300+ year history of that bank. So yeah, I was an expert.
Okay.
I don't know. Maybe not. Maybe I weren't. Do you know what I mean? But there we go.